get into a little bit of the Bears conversation because there was a lot of Bears news flying around here as well. So you can't just talk about just the Bulls. You got to talk about the Bears as well. Shout out to it. What Baki say? You might not hate Pat, but I'm going to hate Larry can take his trash behind to Utah. Hey, bro, Larry not trash, bro. Larry just turned his back on us. Hey man, when the what Timon say? When the world turns its back on you, you turn your back on the world. Let's get into some of this Bears content, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, drop a bird down in the chat because we got to react to this Bears presser, and we also got to talk about kind of just what moves were made, what these guys were talking about on the moves that were made, and where the Bears are heading. Do we feel confident in what the Bears are going to bring to the field? Let me make sure that I got this going to the right input as well. Boop. Bow. Okay. All right. Cool. So let's get into this, man. Y'all don't want to hear from me. Let's hear from our GM and assistant GM. We've got an assistant GM and assistant GM, Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham at the podium, and hear what they had to say about the Bears' moves yesterday.
Our scheduling, practices, coaches, and our players have done a heck of a job, adapting to that and adjusting on the fly. And it's been awesome to see just the transformation from the first day of OTAs to that last preseason game. You could see the way that all the coaches, and especially Flus, wants this game to be played. The guys are doing it. They're finishing. They're playing aggressive. They're competing, which is really cool to see. I feel like you can feel the needle moving, and just in terms of the way we're approaching how we play the game of football. And again, that a lot of credit should go to the coaches for putting the time in. Everything we've said in the beginning in terms of being teachers, they are, and we've seen the development of a lot of players on the roster, and it's awesome to see. The other thing is just giving a lot of credit to the front office. There's been a lot of work done, obviously, over the last few days. Very few hours have been slept because we're putting work in. We're trying to do everything we can to improve this roster, and Ian especially, and then some of the other staff members. Jeff King, Trey Koziel, put a lot of time in to get us where we are today. I'll let Ian say a few things.
Yeah, I thought just to piggyback on that, what Ryan was saying with our process, it really started at the beginning of training camp, led by Jeff and C. White, in terms of assigning players from different teams for us to evaluate and watch. And then last week we really got into the draft room and felt like we were in there every single hour of every single day, just grinding tape and talking through the process and talking through the players. And we had a chance to bring in some of our college guys and introduce them to our process, which was really helpful just in terms of getting some of the refamiliarizing ourselves with the character and the background of the players coming out of college. So I thought it was a really good process, smooth, and couldn't be more thankful for the help of Mike Sandarelli and Ryan Hubley and those guys, making it an easy process in the draft room as well.
Ryan, we haven't talked to you since camp began. Obviously, a lot went down.
That's funny.
Over the course of the last 5 or 6 weeks. There was obviously a big gap between the number that you guys had in mind and the numbers that he had in mind. How do you explain, from your vantage point, why reaching a compromise was so difficult?
Yeah, I feel like I hit on that when I popped in after that family day, when everything was going down. And, we're in a place now, and I think Roquan he said it perfectly. We've shifted gears, and it's all ball now. So it really doesn't make sense to go back and go through all that. And the one thing, he doesn't get enough credit for being able to change gears like that and going out and just playing football and doing it the right way. And I'm proud of him for handling that way. And he's out there, and we're better because of that. So, I really don't want to go back into the whole contract thing.
Follow up. He did use some pretty sharp language in saying things were distasteful and that you weren't negotiating in good faith. How do you address the relationship part of this thing going forward, knowing that obviously you guys have to do some repair in that regard?
Yeah, I think that's it's human nature. When things happen and two sides don't agree on something, it's going to take a little time to do that, and I got a lot of faith that that's going to happen. and I'm excited for him.
Ryan, do you think, what gives you optimism, or what is your cause to believe that you can work that out long-term with him, that this is still a relationship that can be saved beyond this year?
Yeah. Well, first of all, he's a good player. And that's never changed, and he's a good dude. So I have faith that he's going to have a good year, and we'll work on our relationship and all that. It's not even like a bad thing either. It's just when we've all been there, right? You have disagreements, and then you got to come back together and be teammates. So that's what I expect.
What was it about Tevin Jenkins' game that you thought he was better suited, or apparently you guys think he's better suited to play guard than tackle where he was originally and played in college?
Yeah, we probably look at that more of a holistic thing than anything, and it's like, how can we make the best five? And so we did a lot of shuffling around. Everyone was aware of that, and when we got to this point and he was in at guard, I thought some good things happened on the field during some of the games. So I'm happy for him. And again, that's part of that change I talked about. That's difficult. Guys got shuffled around and moved up front, in the back, and we are trying to find our best five. And the way we got to that Cleveland game, we felt pretty good about it. So I'm really happy for him and the progress that he's made. And he's settling in well, and I think he's going to help us there.
When we talked to Tevin after making the team, he said he was still worried about being traded. Should he be?
Should he be traded?
Should he be worried about being traded?
I had a good conversation with him, and I told him how proud I was of him. And again, I think it's about building the best five, and I think we have a good five with him at guard. So I think it's good for us to have Tevin at guard right now.
In the draft a year ago, you guys had a pretty clear directive in Kansas City to look at the offensive line. What was your evaluation of Leatherwood in that moment? And why do you think that a player who the Raiders had no use for can thrive here?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is going back, talented player, physically gifted for sure, prototype in his size and movement. And then in terms of like success with him here, I think we all believe in player development here, and we've put pieces in place to allow players to be their best selves. So we're going to approach that in many different ways, and we're going to give them an opportunity to develop and grow. Hey, like, forget the draft pick thing. Like, that's over. So let's start from the ground floor. Let's build you up and take your time, and whatever that is, we want to put them in the best position to succeed. And Chris Morgan and his staff, and everyone around from the weight room, we're going to give it everything we got.
Is he a tackle?
I think he has the ability to play multiple positions, which again is a huge benefit.
Where do you want to get your first look at him? Tackle or guard?
It doesn't matter. I mean, you've seen how we've shuffled people around on the O-line, so wherever he settles in, that's what we'll do. I trust the coaches to go ahead and have a process for that, and I look forward to it. As soon as we get out of here, I'm going to go run and see what he looks like.
Obviously, by claiming him, you have to keep him on the 53. How do you envision that playing out over the coming weeks as he tries to get up to speed with the offense? I mean, when can he be in a position where he can potentially at least provide depth on a game day?
Yeah, it's hard to tell right now. I mean, he flew in super late last night, had a physical, and just got out there, so it's hard to really do that.
Ryan, how do you evaluate what you see from Justin, through camp and then through the three preseason games, especially that last one where he kind of looked like he was clicking?
Yeah, I think there's progress being made. He looks comfortable. I think before, again, I kind of talked about this, but like his technique and his fundamentals and his feet, like then the new offense, new coaches, new system. There's a lot going on both physically and mentally. So I thought as the preseasons played out and even practice, you could see things start to slow down and him read defenses quicker and pull the trigger, and it was really cool to see him finish up that way.
Ryan, as an extension of that, you talked obviously in the opening about the trust in your coaches. I'm curious what you've observed about the connection between Justin and Luke and how that's kind of evolved in the 4 or 5 months that they've had together.
Yeah, they have a good connection. Their communication's really good, so I've been pleased with that.
Do you think the third preseason game that Justin Fields, for him, that was a turning point at all?
With the preseason, I don't think you don't want to like overvalue preseason. You don't want to undervalue. It's like somewhere in the middle. So it was positive, so we'll take that, and let's just see, the lights are going to come on, and it's going to be real, and they're going to count. So we'll see from there. but I'm happy with the progress.
Ryan, Matty Eberflus said he said the other day just about the receiver depth. He felt good with where they're at, but even he noted that there were 3 healthy guys practicing. How comfortable are you just knowing that you do have injuries right now, and are you comfortable like rolling that group out there, expecting that they might be able to return for week 1?
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that in the next few days and whenever they're going to get out there and we'll have more of a full unit.
Do you think you still need to add to it? To the receiver room?
We're going to be completely I've explained this before. We're going to be relentless and constantly look for talent, and we'll be aggressive when we need to be aggressive and conservative when we need to be conservative, but we're always looking to get better.
What gave you the confidence that you guys could help N'Keal Harry when he's coming from a very reputable organization and it didn't work out? What made you think that you guys could make that work? And what is a realistic timetable for when he could be back?
You want me to
No
hit
one's asking you questions.
Yeah, nobody. We're just happy with the player that N'Keal is, what he's shown. in
I love that
college
he's like,
now.
nobody's asking you nothing. Answer something.
Once he gets healthy, the main thing is just getting him healthy and back on the field. What he showed when he was in practice during training camp, physical specimen, strong at the catch point. It's just unfortunate that the injury happened, but we look forward to getting him back on the field.
And when do you think that will be?
It's hard to tell right now.
Yeah.
We have the designate to return on him, so we got to wait a few weeks, and then when he's healthy, we'll get him out there.
Brian, what have you seen of Matt Eberflus throughout the course of training camp, the offseason program, that gives you confidence in your head coach?
Yeah, I love that dude. Like, you go to meetings. Well, first of all, the schedule and everything. He is detailed. He's organized. He has a team around him to help him be organized. He's consistent. His message is clear. There's no gray area. When he approaches the team meetings and gets in front of the guys, he's got juice, but it's not fluff. It's not fake. It's real, and you can feel that energy that he has. And the guys love it. I love it. I'm so pumped about his leadership and how he's handled this team.
Ryan, it's obviously your objective to win every game that you play, but at this stage in the process, how will you measure success this season? Is there some quantifiable metric that you have in mind for what that looks like?
Yeah, it's interesting. I got asked a question, I forget when it was, but it was like, if you take wins and losses out of it, like, how do you measure success? What would be success? And my answer was resilience. And it's a team, because again, I've been on teams that Super Bowl teams and teams, anywhere in between, and the teams that can just stay level and look at what are the solutions instead of just pointing at the problem, right? And being negative, like, look at that, like, it's not good. No, how are we gonna fix it? So as an organization, as a team, as a locker room, as a staff, like, just being resilient through the ups and downs and just continue to fight and have that arrow pointing up. That was my response to that, and that's kind of how I feel.
Brian, one of the criticisms of this roster that still stands today is that in a critical year for your quarterback's development, you really haven't given him a big enough support to make him successful. So, like, if it doesn't work out, the criticism will be, well, you set him up to fail. Do you understand that? Do you get that? And why do you think that's wrong? What's your response to it?
When we're building this thing, like, that was the goal coming in, is like, try to surround him with the best talent that we can. But at the same time, I've never gotten in the way from the fact that we have to build the entire roster. And I'm not going to overreach and do things crazy to get a name or anything like that. So our approach has been consistent from the draft all the way through. We're going to continue to add talent all around, the best that we can. It may not be the name or a name that everyone wants to hear, but we're going to develop the players that we have here. We're going to continue to fight to make that the best unit we can. Mooney's balling right now. I'm excited about him. That's going to help Justin. I'm excited about Cole. I think our protections and our O-line's gotten better. Some of the guys have been a little dinged up, right? So it's hard to see everything. But when they get back, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Velus coming in and making plays and being a factor that can do different things and bring speed. So I understand that. To do it all right away, that's hard to do with some of the resources that you have, right? So over time, we're going to continue to do that. That's always in our head, is to put our quarterback in the best situation.
You said the protections are better. How confident are you that they'll be good enough?
Yeah, we're going to see when the lights come on. I think through preseason they have gotten better. That's the preseason. We're going to see when the lights come on, and we'll continue to adjust, and we'll do everything we can to make that unit better and everything around him better.
What are you guys seeing in Cole right now? What strikes you about the camp he's had and really the progression he's had?
Yeah, I'd say the confidence, just seeing him coming out and watching tape last year, and he seems to be enjoying himself, having fun. He's got a large catching radius. He's stacking days together, and that's the cool thing about him, and just seeing his maturation and his confidence show out there.
When you were scouting and eventually drafted Braxton Jones, was it that at that point that you guys had circled him as a potential starting left tackle, or did he come in and surprise you guys and say, oh, he's much more advanced than we thought?
Yeah, so we thought he definitely had starter potential and he could develop. I've been blown away by how fast he has developed. I think that there's a lot of credit for our coaches and Chris Morgan, and they've done an excellent job. And he continues to kind of check the boxes. You go from OTAs, like, hey, that guy looks pretty good, and then you go to, all right, but we got to go to training camp. We got to put pads on. Put pads on. Still does pretty good. All right, let's see when the lights come on and go to preseason. Is he going to do it then? Does it get? Because the longer you do this, and you've all seen, you see these spikes, and then like, where did he go? And he just continues to climb and get better and better and better. And then now that next phase is going. I mean, week 1, he's going to see a big dog. So. And I told him too, there's going to be ups and downs. And I think part of being a really good player is the short memory. Like, how can you overcome some of those bad plays? That's going to be the next step for him. And just seeing, those top rushers in this league, it's no joke. A lot of guys struggle with them. But can you battle? Can you fight? And have that short memory when things go bad? And do you have the toughness to stick in there? So I'm excited for him. And I'm excited for what he's become. He has not given that spot up. And he just keeps fighting and fighting and fighting. So I'm proud of that kid.
As an offensive lineman, do you believe?
He's offensive lineman too.
Both of you, as offensive linemen, do you believe in the idea that you need to gel as one of 5, and that it takes time on the field together to get there? And how do you balance that with trying to get the best 5 on the field and there being moving parts almost until 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think as an offensive lineman and former offensive lineman, it does matter, right, to be out there and play with your teammates and gel. I do think the room matters too, right, and the depth matters. So versatility on the back end, you can never have too many offensive linemen, and then being in that room, bonding together, out on the practice field, we have a great group, and then all of that matters.
If you had to change your approach at all, dealing with like the emotions of the players, whether it's Roquan representing himself, more and more guys are going to do the same thing, or Tevin being the subject of trade talk. Have you had to change an approach, or has it made you pay attention more to the emotions of the guys?
Yeah, I feel like paying attention to the emotions of the guys, it's a real thing. I also think I do a decent enough job to put myself in their shoes and understand why their emotions are there. So I think my reaction to that of not getting upset or like all over the place, I think has been fairly good. But also I think, I can just always communicate better. I think we all could just communicate better, be more clear. And I think that's been pretty good, but there's always room to improve, I guess.
Ian, what's your evaluation of Tevin Jenkins? Just how his story is kind of, like, how does it resonate with you, him taking over the right guard spot after being out a little bit?
Resilience, right? He had up and down early part of his career just with the back injury, coming from Oklahoma State, getting in here, and then early in training camp this year, another injury, and then for him to come in and then play guard, a position that he wasn't as familiar with. It's just a testament to the kid, right? And his resilience and his work ethic. Couldn't be more proud of him.
How about Larry Borum? He's not discussed as much, and he's your starting right tackle.
Yeah.
Secondary guy. What has he done to win that job, in your guys' opinions?
Shoot, we came in and we had to lose some weight, right? We had to the scheme was going to change. He did that, and he was locked in, and he's been more and more consistent as we've gone along. He's another one we're proud of. How about Sam Mustapher stepping in and doing a pretty good job at center as well. That's another guy. He's just gritty, is tough. Like you saw, Justin took that hit. Like those guys, they're getting it, right? They're stepping up when they need to, and they're protecting their guy, and they're bringing that mentality that we want to see.
With Riley Reef coming in, I mean, you just think like the timing of when he was signed, a veteran with that much experience, that he'd come in and be a starter right away. But obviously, it hasn't panned out that way. Do you look at it as, you know, are you happy that some of the younger guys maybe outperformed some of the veterans that you brought in, like Riley Reef?
So I think the big thing there is, you know, he comes in and what he offers that room is a ton of experience and leadership, and you can feel that. He is engaged and helping those guys constantly, but he's also preparing himself to be ready if his number were to be called or to be the guy. And he was open-minded with that. We're open-minded with that. We're excited to have him. I think he's a huge asset to the room.
You obviously have to keep one eye beyond 2022 as you're building this thing. And
We're hitting the road. We got 3 games this week that we're going to.
but in addition to college, it's some of your own guys, right? That you have to figure out how they fit in your plans for the future. With David Montgomery specifically, what do you want to see in this season, and how do you kind of figure out how to value that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love David. So just, you know, there's a different scheme, and just seeing him approach that, he had a nice start with the preseason game, but really just fitting into that new scheme, zone scheme, and just attacking and being productive and consistent and dependable. I think that's what we look for every player.
Did your philosophy on that specific position evolve during your time in Kansas City? There were a lot of different ways that you guys did it when you were with the Chiefs, with, you know, guys that had big contracts, guys that came in and played on rookie deals and then went elsewhere.
Not really. I mean, we just want to be productive, and then we'll kind of handle the business part as we go.
With Robert Quinn, there would seem to be a lot of factors that could have made him a trade candidate, a guy that you, as you were trading other guys like Khalil Mack, for example. Why has it been important for you to keep him here?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Robert Quinn. He's been productive. The one thing, and it's not saying that Khalil wasn't, but for Robert, he brings one of those examples of what Matt wanted to see out of his defense, and being relentless, high motor. That's that guy. And again, another leader in the room that can show the young guys the way, and he's been doing a really good job at that.
That's more valuable to you than whatever you could get through cap savings or draft assets coming in.
Yeah, and that's that balance of, you know, there's just, I think, a misconception. It's like, you know, tear this down and rebuild it all. It's not that. There's also a feel for the room. It's how can you make the room better? How can you stay, you know, productive and win ball games? And I think he helps us with that.
Brian, you targeted Ogunjobi in free agency and ended up with Justin Jones. How do you feel about the way that has played out, and how close has Jones been to giving you what you expected from Ogunjobi?
Yeah, I'm excited about Justin. Justin's another, you know, one of those leaders in the room, and he's got a high motor. He's been productive, and I'm excited, you know, to see him this year and be the guy that we think he can be.
Can he give you what you thought you were going to get from Ogunjobi, though?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Ryan?
With Kyler, at what point in the kind of process, I mean, you obviously played inside at Washington. How did that kind of come together from your guys' perspective, and what have you liked about what he's brought to you inside?
Yeah, his skill set to me, it travels both inside and outside, and he's done a really good job. I think it's just, you know, it's like the old line and anywhere else. Getting the best 3 in your sub package is important, and I think he's proven that he can do that. And it's, you know, athletically, the twitch, the quickness, and also the instincts are a huge part of that.
I'll touch on that real quick, just with Kyler. His balance is uncanny, and his movement, his ball skills, to be able to do that inside and out is tremendous. I think he's going to be a really good player for us.
Ryan, since you've got here, it's been hitting the ground running, a lot of firsts for you, this whole process from even getting to Lake Forest and now getting ready for this first regular season game. Is there a part of you that's anxious to, like, have a game happen, see all of your work on the field in action?
Yeah, yep. No, I mean, that's what we do it for, right? It's like, it's just making the most competitive roster possible and getting a game day and seeing how it looks, and you just continue to adapt and to change and improve where we can.
It was Ryan Poles, GM, and Ian Cunningham, assistant GM, we've got one of those now, of the Chicago Bears, man. A lot of information in that press conference, right? You find out kind of where he stands on Tevin Jenkins. When they asked him about, okay, are you going to trade Tevin or not? He says, listen, I had a good conversation with Tevin, and that we are better with Tevin Jenkins in the starting lineup at guard. We've got a good group of guys with Tevin Jenkins in the starting lineup at guard. And I feel like that's something that you really got to look at and say, you get an understanding of what they want to build here, right? You get an understanding of where they want this team to continue to improve at. They're looking at this offensive line as the spot where they need to look at most, right? Yes, they're going to find some wide receivers, and there might be a little bit of patchwork coming into this season, but at a minimum, you feel like, okay, their main goal this season is to get it right through the trenches. We've got to figure out how to get the trenches right, because if Justin Fields doesn't have time to throw the ball, he's not going to have time to get it to that receiver, for that receiver to run his route, for you to make the right plays. And so I really like that about, I said this yesterday on the show. I think I was going to post. I think I got it ready to post. We got some clips on the way, man. Don't worry about it, man. We got stuff coming. But here's the thing that you have to look at with Ryan Poles and how he's building this team. You have to look at this and say, he might believe that Justin Fields is the kind of quarterback that can make his teammates better. That's a big difference. How do you put a guy in a position where he has the ability to make those teammates better? Well, you got to protect him. And so you heard him talking. He likes what he saw with Braxton Jones. They never thought in their wildest dreams that he was going to develop this fast, but they like what they see at Braxton Jones. They like what they see with Tevin Jenkins at that right guard position. I think those are two things that when you look at and you say, okay, this is kind of where they're focusing in at. Of course, there's some other things that are going to come into question, right? How's the Roquan thing going to play itself out? How's that going to work with this offensive line? How's that going to work? How's that going to work with this defense, right? And how they're going to continue to improve. But at a minute, does Roquan fit this system? I think that's something else that has been talked about as well. But at a minimum, right, you see, even with the guys that they're still looking at to bring in possibly, they're trying to make sure that there is a plethora of depth at that offensive line position. I think it was just tweeted out by Ian Rappaport a few minutes ago. They brought in lineman. Who was it? Hold on, let me double check here. Kaleski Osmele, who was a very versatile offensive lineman. I think I'm saying his name right. If not, it is what it is. But I mean, honestly, right? Like, they're trying to bring in different, versatile, offensive linemen to stand in front of Justin Fields. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Making sure that you have that depth. Because if Justin Fields is able to be upright, maybe he's that kind of player that's going to be able to stand in there and make your team better. And then you go out and you get him his number one receiver. And then you go out and you get him his top flight weapons. And then you go out and you get him better running back, better tight ends, better. Like, that's where you look at it. That's how you look at it. If you have a guy that can make the plays, you need to protect that guy. I understand it, right? Like, Aaron Rodgers complained about his team for how many years? We don't have another wide receiver. We don't have another wide receiver. You know why they weren't getting them wide receivers? Because they were putting pieces in front of them to keep them alive. Because they know that Aaron Rodgers is a good enough player without having 7 wide receivers at his disposal that you can still win a lot of games. So that's really where you got to look at this thing and say, okay, is Ryan Poles' plan getting better? And I'll tell you this, listen, there's probably going to be some swings and misses on this offensive line. Sam Mustipher, I don't know if he's a long-term. He looked good in preseason. Mediocre players usually do, right? I don't know if he's going to be a part of this future. You know, Lucas Patrick is going to be your starter. You hope that Braxton Jones is your starting left tackle. I don't know if Cody Whitehair is a long-term part of this offensive line. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably where you're trying to see what's going on with Alex Leatherwood in that situation. So for me, right, I'm looking at all those things and I'm saying, okay, well, if that's the case, if that's what you're trying to build here, then how are you going to do that? Hey, we got to keep finding guys that are going to be able to keep Justin alive. That's the piece that does the most for you on a consistent basis. And it seems like the Chicago Bears get that. So I'm not upset at that at all. We did get our first comments as well from Alex Leatherwood. He was talking about kind of where he prefers to line up, right? Like, I feel like that's something important that you have to talk about with him, because where's he going to play on this team? Do you feel like the Raiders didn't use him well? Those are all important things to talk about, man. So before we get up out of here, man, let's go out to Alex Leatherwood, hear what he had to say about where he likes to line up, where he feels like he's a good fit on this team, and how the Bears hope to utilize him. I don't think it's long either. I think it's regular presser. So, yeah.
No, not necessarily. But also, it's not really my concern. I'm more concerned with the future and things that are going on here now.
What excites you most about Tom?
You can get lower. Bring up down lower.
Just a new opportunity. You know what I mean? I feel like what they have going on here is going to be great. You know what I mean? I'm excited to be a part of it.
From what you know about the scheme and what they ask of their offensive linemen, how do you think you can fit?
To be honest, I feel like I'll fit well. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I'm strong and fast. You know what I mean? So I feel like no matter what it is, you know what I mean, I'll just, give my best effort to do it or whatever. So, yeah, it don't matter what, the scheme is.
What did today look like in practice for you? I know they said they're open to different positions for you. Where were you taking most of your reps?
On the right side, the right tackle. So, yeah, that's where I was.
Is that where you're most comfortable? Do you want to play right tackle?
I'm open to anything, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
With Justin Fields behind you, that's real different than the quarterback you're coming from. Is there a challenge in blocking for somebody who can run the way he can?
I wouldn't say it's a challenge, you know what I mean? I feel like if anything, it's a help, you know what I mean? So I'm just super excited to be able to be and work with him. So,
are you coming in here feeling like you have something to prove? Is there any of that in your mind?
No, not necessarily. I'm just here excited for the new opportunity I have. You know what I mean? And I'm going to make the most of it.
Well, how do you view the opportunity? Let's leave it open. How do you view the opportunity?
I view it as something positive. I'm optimistic, and I'm grateful.
How long does it take to learn a new scheme, a new offense, to be able to come in and interview?
Just all depends on how long it takes me to get the language and stuff like that. I mean, it's all ball at the end of the day, but it's just about the terminology, just getting used to it and stuff like that. So, just trying to be a student.
What was the message from Ryan Poles when you found out?
They were excited to have me here. It's a new opportunity, and yeah, I'm excited. That's pretty much it.
What was your day like yesterday? Obviously, you had to put together travel plans pretty quickly and figure out how to get here.
It was wild, of course, you know what I mean. But we ultimately we got a schedule set with like the flight and all that good stuff, and I got here maybe around like midnight, but it all worked out.
So you came directly here at midnight and then took your physical and all that?
Nah, I got here last night at midnight, and then like this morning I came and did all that other stuff. Yeah.
Is it harder to learn a new offense or learn your teammates' names?
I think the teammates' name by far, by far.
Who have you kind of latched on to, or who's come to you?
This is my first day here.
Yeah, right.
This is my first. I mean, everybody's very
bruh, I respect that. Why you asking him that already? Like, he been here for 8 hours.
So, yeah, just everybody.
You had Coach King in Las Vegas. What was it like to kind of reunite with him? Does that kind of help with the familiarity of having him around?
Yeah, cool. Because he was a great assistant at the Raiders, so it's always great to see a face that you've seen before and stuff like that. So yeah.
Do you know anybody? Do you know any of these guys from?
Yeah, I know a couple people.
Is there anything you want Bears fans to know about yourself?
You said what?
What do you want Bears fans to know about yourself?
I don't know. Great question. I'll be here to give my best effort, and hey, I'm committed to this organization and this city. So, bear down.
That was Alex Leatherwood, man. Shout out to him. Welcome to the city, brother. It's going to be interesting to see, right? He's another guy where you're talking about how does he fit into the scheme? How does he fit in with the system? There's a ton of questions around him. But again, that low risk, high reward, you got to like the fact that Poles is bringing in these guys where he's saying, hey, maybe he can turn into something. Maybe he was played out of position. That pause was huge, though. That was a big hesitation there, Steve-O. So here's the thing again, right? Like, is he going to be playing out of position again? Like, where is he comfortable at? Is he a left tackle all of a sudden? Is he a left guard? Like, we got to find that spot for him where he feels the most comfortable, because the one thing that the Bears continue to do is play guys out of position. And I think that was the Bears' biggest liability on a consistent basis. Tevin Jenkins gets drafted as a right tackle. What do? We're going to turn him into our left tackle. How's that work? How about you let him play the position he knows and you go find somebody that can play that position? But I think, right, like when you look at what Ryan Poles is trying to do, young offensive linemen, young foundation, young bodies all around this team, he understands what it's going to take for this team to start to move in the right direction. And I feel like he's the first person who understands it for a long time, because we've never had a GM. We've had kicker competitions. We've had QB competitions. We've had wide receiver competitions. We've had tight end competitions, but we've never legitimately had offensive line competitions, because it was a situation in case of best case scenario, this guy doesn't suck as bad as that guy sucks. Best case scenario, this guy doesn't suck as bad as at this position as bad as he sucked at that position. Like, we're coming into a season where finally you feel like the Bears understand how modern football works. Hey, if you protect your quarterback, good things can happen for you. And we'll see if that's what ends up happening, man. We'll see if that's what ends up being the outcome of this team, if that's where this Bears team ends up actually having some successes this year on the offensive line. I feel like they're going to be a lot better this season on the offensive line than last season, but let's hope that we're all right on that, man. Hey, man, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with your boy for another episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. We'll be back tomorrow, a week after this one. So this is the last week that we'll be off schedule. Going into next week, we're going to be setting up a legitimate schedule where we'll be live at the same time every day. You will have to look at this beautiful face. And we'll also have a specific podcast where there will also be, all of the guys on it, just for timing and sake like that. So next week, be on the lookout for that announcement. I will go live at the time that we'll be setting, and then we'll just keep it going from there. If there's adjustments coming in the schedule and stuff like that because something major comes up, we'll make that move based off of that. But hey, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us, man. We have so much fun stuff coming for you during the season, during the basketball season, during the football season. We're working on a bunch of different things for deals and stuff like that, a bunch of things where we can give away merch on the channel and different things like that. So a lot of things in place. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing so much love. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears and Bulls content. Click the links on the screen and check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.